Hey LeGrand Alive, welcome to Coffee with Will. I'm Will Bowman and I am here today with George Mendoza, who is the LeGrand Superintendent of Schools, who has come in today to talk to me a little bit about himself and also a little bit of his education and pedagogy philosophy, which seems to emanate from a deeply seated personal philosophy that he holds, which makes me be very interested in him as a person. So thank you, George, for coming in and chatting with me today. I really appreciate you doing it. So really quick, before we get started, I want to mention our sponsors for this episode. Grande Hospital, Northwest Furniture and Mattress, Anything to Digital, EONI, and Med Transport. These are great sponsors. If you see the people that work or are involved with these organizations, thank them. We wouldn't be able to bring you programming if it wasn't for them. So, George, tell me, how did you come? We were talking a little bit before camera. You kind of have been around LeGrand for a lot of your career and your life. What brought you into the center of the circle to LeGrand?
We'd have to go back, I'd say 20, 24 years.
24 years in about 2 minutes. Can you do that for me?
So, graduated from high school, went to Eastern Oregon University for college, played football, was involved in athletics, met my wife, had our first daughter here in LeGrand, and once I was ready to start my career, my wife's family is from Vail in Ontario, so we moved over there, started working. I worked as a second grade teacher, a fourth grade teacher, and then a vice principal. I coached athletics over there. I was an athletic director. Life was great in Ontario and in that area, but I had my brothers and my father as well in the Tri-Cities, and I graduated from Prosser, and by that time they had also migrated over to Pasco and Kennewick. So I had my siblings in Pasco, my dad in Kennewick, and I wanted to make sure that I saw life with them as well. And so I took a job in Pasco, Washington, became a principal, and then we started all being around each other once again. I figured out after a while that I wanted to have my retirement be more of an Oregon retirement versus the Washington retirement. Yeah. And then I eventually took a job in Morrow County School District. Was a vice principal at a high school. The next year I became the assistant superintendent. Did that for 6 years, and throughout that time we would still go back and forth in between LeGrand. I became a member of the board of trustees for Eastern Oregon University around in the inception period. So before we even started the board, there was kind of a time to develop. So around 4 years ago, I started to get really more connected with EOU. Yeah. When I was in Morrow County, I was bringing in students to do leadership institutes to Eastern Oregon University. Wow. I would go to alumni events, I would go to games, and I would just participate at EOU in a way where I cared about the institution for the opportunities that they gave me and the interactions I was able to have and become a better person. And then when I really joined the board of trustees, again, I just re-energized or recommitted my passion towards Eastern Oregon University, and then LeGrand, the community of LeGrand. Over time, I had gotten to know people and spend time and eat food and stay here. And
we do have good people and good food here.
So when it was time for me to grow again in my career, and the superintendent position opened up, I had been recruited for other positions and other things, but for this one here, it was the most aligned to my heart and to my mind of how I could serve and where I wanted to contribute. And I felt like I had, over 21 years, gained enough skill and knowledge and expertise to know that I can make a difference within a school system setting or within a community setting. And then I felt like the timing was right for me to give what I can.
To make the plunge, to come back to the place that housed many things that you seemed to enjoy.
Yeah,
absolutely. So now, that all kind of being said, you have a very, it seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like you have a very deep passion for kids and a love for kids and for pedagogy and for education. Is that true? Where did that come from?
I'd say, if you were to say an instructional leader or an instructional superintendent, I'm more from that element. I think there's superintendents that are business type managers or facility type people. I am more of a people person or an instructional person. I guess it comes from a place of love or a place of care, a place of concern. When I was, I'd say as a junior in high school, I had football coaches that really cared about me and asked me to be a teacher's assistant. And so I was in a 5th grade class for 2 years in a row as a teacher's assistant. And I got to work with 5th grade kids and this wonderful mentor teacher who was also my football coach. And just how he taught kids, just how he treated people, just how he treated myself, just how he interacted was like I want to be like him, or I want to do things like him. And I always liked people, or I always liked, I was pretty social. I liked helping, I liked serving on different things. And this career field really kind of lined up to the passion or the purpose or the values that I feel I had.
Yeah.
And over time, it just filled me over and over again to work with people. So working with kids, watching them learn, working with kids in sports, watching them grow, helping kids or people find success. All of those things have continually been things that made me feel like this is what you were meant to do. This is what you're supposed to be like. So whenever we help people, I feel like it's a very natural thing to want to help people, to want to listen to them, to want to figure out what their needs are, to see where we can remove obstacles if we can, to make sure that we follow rules and structure and order and policies and procedures, but also to understand that person and their needs and see what you can do to help them get to a better place. It just became natural over time.
Wow, very cool. So, all that kind of leads me up to something that I'm very interested in, which, I've only ever heard this kind of sentiment expressed 1 or 2 times, but, some of the people that I've heard it expressed, you said once in a conversation that we were having that, no one wakes up in the morning wanting to do bad. Everyone wakes up in the morning with the best intentions. Even the people who we would see as not having the best intentions or doing poor things. How does that work out in dealing with children? Like, how, can you look at someone who is a child who maybe is acting out, or a child who is making very poor decisions in their life, and still say, I know you're waking up in the morning with the best intentions, and what does that look like in an educational setting?
Oh, good question. Kind of complicated.
Yeah. And you can think about it if you need to.
I just think there's an iceberg underneath humanity most of the time. What we see on the outside, there's typically layers and layers and things underneath that triggered that action or triggered that behavior or triggered that interaction that you just had, and trying to understand sometimes kids have habits, sometimes kids or people have behaviors, and that's just what they know. That's been their nature, that's been their nurture, that's been their environment. There's a thing called epigenetics where your neurons, your dendrites, all of these things are forming in your brain, and you are inheriting different things that your parents had or that your mother had at the time that you were born. And they cause mannerisms, they cause behavior, they cause action. And just understanding that there's something there that led to that typically puts you in a place of less judgment, more open, more understanding, less shaming, and just trying to figure out what is going on. And I generally do have a disposition where I feel like most people, they wake up wanting to do the right thing. Whether it's adults or whether it's kids, we want to have a good day. We don't want to get in trouble or have fights, say mean things, and create wrongdoing in this world. Most of us want to have a good day. We want to be told nice things, and we want to have pleasant experiences with others, or we want to get our assignments right, and we want to turn in our things. And
we want other people to have good days too. You know, like I wake up and I don't go out of my bed saying, who can I make miserable today?
No. So there's just a disposition or an attitude of abundance in this world, and that there's enough good things for all of us, and that we're meant to make this world better. Now, So I like it whenever I start interact with people too on problems to say, it's just, let's assume good intent. I want to follow rules. I want to make sure we're compliant. I want to make sure that people act with great integrity and great character and follow through and are competent. So those are things that we all want, but I also understand that we're humans. We make poor decisions. We are flawed at times, and that there needs to be a space for that in people, and that space usually allows them to grow. It allows them to change behavior or find better strategies when you coach them or work with them or try to understand them. So it's really from that place or those experiences that I've had.
Wow, that's a very powerful way of looking at kids' lives. Have you had any experiences of where, you've interacted with a kid and you found this to be sort of a true thing? And obviously you're not going to say names or anything, but can you think of any experiences that you might have had with a kid where giving him the benefit of saying, I know you were looking at this with a good intent, but maybe you just made a poor decision, has opened them up?
Yeah. I think in general, I'll just give you dispositions. When you come in prejudging, predetermining, and pretty much in control command, you don't always see truth or honesty or an openness for growth. So to me, over time, whenever I work with children or when I've worked with people, it's really like, no harm, no foul. Let's just figure out what happened and let's see what we can do to improve it so that it doesn't repeat itself. And in general, when you talk to a child, and let's go back to me, it's kind of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey type stuff. And I would say that's another tool or an instrument that I've learned over time of how to be. One of his qualities or characteristics, habits, is habit number 4, think win-win. So you're going to always think win-win when you start interactions. And another habit after that is seek first to understand, then to be understood. So when you are already coming in with what's a win-win for everyone, what's some choice option, voice choice things that we can do with kids, but also how do I understand your point of view? And then after I do understand, then it's seek first and then to be understood. Then for you to help them understand what the rule, what the policy, what the expectation is. And when you come in with that kind of attitude and disposition, you typically say, I'm focused on your needs now. They're coming back into, I want to contribute, I want to give back, I want to reciprocate, I've learned something better, the strategy that you selected or the expectation now that you've shared, I can buy into, because it's kind of, I took the time to communicate, to connect with you, to understand you. And those are the things that I see creates cooperation. Those are the things that I think create change or growth in people. And then they pick up on better habits or better strategies of how to behave or how to follow expectations.
And I think that's really a very powerful way of looking at it, because a lot of times, in order for someone to be open for a behavior change, they first have to feel like their behavior as it was understood as it is. Like that they're not just being reduced to someone who is doing something for no reason whatsoever, and it creates an openness in them. So it's a really interesting philosophy.
I guess I would just say, like, going back to, I'm probably the most flawed person in the room, and I acknowledge and I accept
George,
that. No,
I highly doubt that.
But coming from a place of no one here is perfect, and we're all trying to get better, and we all want to take care of each other to make things better over time in this world or in this activity. People tend to gravitate towards understanding that. And again, for kids or for people, relationships are important, understanding perspectives are important. Really getting some level of cooperation, or we're all in this together, tends to create more growth.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, cool. Well, so I think we're kind of coming closer to the time where we're going to have to be done here for time's sake. But another question that I kind of had for you. was, and it ties in with what you're saying here, because it sounds like listening is a really big part of what you're trying to do here. And you mentioned that when we did an interview probably about 6 months ago or a year ago when you were first coming here. You said you wanted to come in, you wanted to listen, and those habits make sense now because you were coming in with the hopes of a win-win for LeGrand, but you were seeking first to understand rather than to be understood. So I guess my question for you is now that you've been here for a year, what have you been hearing? What have you been understanding about the community of LeGrand, the kids of LeGrand, those sorts of things?
That's great. When I would just say too, most people don't like the new leader to come in and act like they know everything. Hey, we're changing this.
Well, you may not know everything, but you probably know at least one or two things.
I'd say the good thing that I'd say superintendents need to do is they do need to listen. They need to understand the systems, understand what's working, what's not working, and what are the goals that people have, and then try to just align hearts and heads so that we can move forward in a common direction. So that's kind of part of it is adult learning theory and how to make sure that the actions you take are in alignment with what their needs are, what their emotional caring needs are as well. So I would just say, doing that, I got to learn that people love their schools. They love that we've passed a bond and that we have new facilities. People have been really pleased that there's a new central or a CTE building that we've got. Last year we made a track, built a track, put in new bleacher seats, and did different things with the sheds. People like that we have programs and services. People like that we have clubs and activities, that we have arts and great sports. People like that EOU is doing well in sports. People feel like that EOU's success is also the community's success, or LeGrand School District success is also the community's success. So those are the things. People like downtown being invested in and developed. People like that there's growth in our enrollment, and they feel like we should get a little bit bigger. People like that. Most people like that, at least. Some people kind of like, let's just keep the quality the same, or let's stay who we are. But most people want to improve quality of life, but also grow a little bit more. More industry. People tell me that. We need more industry. We're one industry away from failure. To becoming, not as good as we want to be. But if we grow another industry or two, we'll bring in more people, we'll bring in more resources, we'll bring in more services, we'll have more restaurants or hotels, we'll have different things that we can offer to our children. People say that. Natural resources, they love our natural resources. They love that we have trails and activities to do around. But also people don't feel like we have enough housing. People don't feel like we have enough housing services or human services, human welfare, safety services at times. So they want me to know that. And we do have, for families that are in need, sometimes there's shortages out there, and filling that gap is something that people let me know that we needed to get better at. People have talked about wellness needs in our schools, behavioral needs in our schools. We have families that struggle, or children that struggle, and making sure that we have services in place for those kids, but also services in place to support those families. So those are all things that come at me. They love that we have a great CTE program, and that we have lots of new, I'll just say, courses and offerings for certificates for our students, and that we can fill jobs for the industry and make sure that kids are job ready for industry. They like that we have Eastern Promise dual credit courses that you can get credit in high school, but also college credit. Our goal is to someday get to the point where we can offer an Associate of Art degree in the high school.
Wow, that's very cool.
Yeah, that would be great, and it would also be, free, a reduced burden to our parents that want their child to go to school. And again, it gives them more options and opportunities.
Very cool.
That's more of a 3 to 5 year goal out there for us. But just those are the kind of things. People like where we're going. They think we're on the move. They think that it's great that we're doing, well in sports and well as a district. And they just want to sustain it. They want to make sure that, whatever we got going in sports, keep it going. Whatever you got going with programs, keep it going.
It's interesting because I recently had a conversation with Steve Clemens, the mayor, and he said something very similar. He said, we're not doing that bad. Like there are some people that might say that we're not doing great, but we're not really doing that bad. Like there's a lot of things that we're doing here which are moving us into the new age and progressing and those kinds of things, and people like them. So it sounds like I'm hearing the same thing from you as well, coming from the superintendent position.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, George, so much for coming in today and chatting with me. I really respect what you're doing. It's incredible, and I wanted to interview you for so long. It's been very, very cool. So before we leave, maybe there's someone watching out there who, they agree with what you're saying. You're like, oh man, like I really want to learn how to be a better listener and to learn a win-win situation. Is there a tip, just a basic tip that you could give people about how to be a more effective listener, both either with kids or with adults?
Wow.
I always try to leave it with a little bit of a practical tip for LeGrand Alive so that they might be able to take something with them,
I would just say make it less about you and more about them, or think big picture as often as you can. I try to lean in and listen and learn and understand and repeat what people are telling me and really try to tease out. But I would just say, if you can always think big picture, what are we trying to accomplish? What are we trying to create? What is better for our future? And you use that as a way of thinking to help them or to help yourself in listening. That's a goal for me that I'm always trying to figure out when I'm talking and interacting.
Yeah.
Just trying to understand and then be understood. And then there's that synergize, and habit number 6, just together, collaboratively, we'll probably accomplish far more together than we would individually.
Wow. Very cool, very cool. Well, George, thank you so much for coming in and chatting with me today. It's been awesome. And thank you, LeGrand Alive, for tuning in to Coffee with Will with George Mendoza. I'm Will Bowman. The show was brought to you by Grande Hospital, Northwest Furniture and Mattress, Anything 2 Digital, EONI, and Med Transport. Please, 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 please thank them for what they do. We could not bring these really quality interviews to you, LeGrand Alive, without their help. And be sure to like and share the video and tune in next time to Coffee with Will. We'll see you later, LeGrand Alive.